Pain is usually a signal. It is your body's way of saying, stop, something is wrong, run away. But what happens when you cannot run? What happens when the person inflicting the pain has taken away your ability to stand, your ability to walk, and your ability to fight? Imagine being 13 years old. You are lying on a kitchen floor. You are conscious, you are terrified. You try to get up to run for the door, but when you look down, you realize that your legs don't work anymore. They are twisted. They are shattered. The predator standing over you didn't break them by accident. He didn't break them in a fight. He broke them methodically. He broke them purposely. He wanted to make sure that no matter how hard you tried, you would never leave this house. Most people would pass out from the shock. Most people would scream until their voice gave out. But Thad Phillips didn't scream. Lying on that floor with his ankles crushed and his femurs snapped, this 13-year-old boy realized that his legs were gone, but his mind was still working. He realized that if he couldn't run out of the house, he had to talk his way out. He had to play a psychological game with a sadist who had been torturing him for 43 hours. He had to convince the monster to do the one thing that would end the nightmare. He had to convince him to bring the phone. This is the story of the bone-breaker killer. It is the story of a boy who endured a level of physical agony that is medically impossible to comprehend, and used his final ounce of strength not to beg for mercy, but to set a trap. If you think you know what tough means, you haven't met Thad Phillips. Please hit that subscribe *** button right now. You need to hear this story because it proves that even when you are broken in every physical sense, your spirit can still stand tall. To understand the betrayal, we have to understand the friendship. Baraboo, Wisconsin, July 1995. Thad Phillips was a normal 13-year-old kid. He loved video games. He loved hanging out. Living nearby was an older teenager named Joe Clark. Joe was 17. To a 13-year-old, a 17-year-old is cool. They are almost adults. Joe seemed a little off, a little intense, but he wasn't a stranger. He was a neighbor. He was someone Thad's parents knew vaguely. On the evening of July 29, 1995, Thad was asleep at home. His parents were out. The phone rang. It was Joe. "Hey, come over," Joe said. "Let's hang out. We can watch movies." It was late, but Thad was a kid. He thought, why not? He left a note for his parents, gone to Joe's house. He walked through the quiet neighborhood. He walked up the steps to Joe's house. He didn't know that he was walking into the lair of a burgeoning serial killer. He didn't know that Joe Clark had spent years fantasizing about control, about pain, and about the sound of snapping bones. Thad walked in. They hung out for a bit. Then Joe suggested they go into the bedroom. The moment they were in the room, the atmosphere changed. Joe Clark wasn't the cool, older teen anymore. He grabbed Thad. He overpowered him. Thad tried to fight, but Joe was bigger, stronger, and prepared. Joe dragged Thad to the bed. And then the nightmare began. Joe Clark didn't have a gun. He didn't have a knife. He used his own body weight. He used leverage. He grabbed Thad's leg. He twisted. Snap! Thad screamed. His ankle was broken. Panic set in. "Why are you doing this?" Joe didn't answer. He just moved to the other leg. Snap! Now Thad couldn't walk. Joe Clark looked at his work. He wasn't frantic. He was calm. He was experimenting. He wanted to see how much pain the human body could endure. He wanted a doll, a living doll that couldn't run away. For the next 43 hours, nearly 2 full days, Thad Phillips was a prisoner in that house. It wasn't just physical torture, it was psychological. Joe Clark would leave the room to go watch TV. He would go get a snack. He would leave Thad lying there in agony, wondering if he was going to die. Then Joe would come back, and he would break something else. He moved up the legs. He broke the femur's thigh bones. The femur is the strongest bone in the human body. To break, it requires the same amount of force as a car crash. The pain causes the body to go into shock. Thad was drifting in and out of consciousness. But he noticed something strange about Joe. Joe wasn't a mindless monster. He was conflicted. Sometimes he would apologize. "I'm sorry," Joe would say. "I don't know why I'm doing this. Something takes over me." Then an hour later, the thing would take over again and the torture would resume. Thad Phillips, at 13 years old, realized something profound. He is crazy, but he feels guilty. Thad realized that his only weapon was that guilt. He couldn't fight back physically. His legs were useless. He had to fight back emotionally. Thad started talking to Joe. He didn't scream, "I hate you." He didn't threaten him. He played the role of the dying victim. "Joe," Thad said, "I'm in so much pain, I think I'm dying." Joe looked at him. "I'm sorry," Joe said, "I can't stop." Thad pushed harder. "If I'm going to die here," Thad whispered, "I just want to hear my mom's voice one last time. Please, let me say goodbye." It was a masterstroke of manipulation. He appealed to Joe's tiny shred of humanity. He didn't ask to call the police. He asked to call his mom to say goodbye. Joe Clark hesitated. He looked at the broken boy on the floor. He probably thought, "He can't run. He can't escape. What's the harm?" Joe went to the kitchen. He grabbed the cordless phone. He brought it to Thad. Thad's hands were shaking. Joe was standing right there, watching him. Thad knew he couldn't call his mom. If his mom picked up and screamed, Joe would hang up and kill him instantly. He needed the police, but he couldn't say police. Thad dialed 911. He waited for the click. Then he did something incredibly brave. He put the phone down on the floor, off the hook. He didn't speak into it immediately. He just left the line open. Then he started talking loudly to Joe. "Joe, please, why are you doing this? My legs are broken, please help me." He was narrating the crime for the dispatcher, listening on the other end. Joe Clark realized what was happening. His eyes went wide. The guilt vanished, replaced by rage. He lunged for the phone. He ripped it out of Thad's hand. He threw it across the room. He ripped the phone cord out of the wall. "What did you do?" Joe screamed. He started packing. He was panicking. "Did you call the cops, did you?" Thad lay there terrified. He didn't know if the dispatcher heard enough. He didn't know if they could trace it. Joe Clark looked at Thad. "I have to kill you now," he said. "I can't let you tell." But the dispatcher had heard. In 1995, 911 tracing wasn't instantaneous like it is today. But because the line was left open for a few seconds, they got a fix on the address. Police cars were dispatched. Joe Clark heard the sirens. The sound of salvation. But for Thad, it was the most dangerous moment. This is called the hostage paradox. When the rescue arrives, the killer often panics and executes the victim. Joe Clark ran to the kitchen. He grabbed a knife. He came back to Thad. "Thad thought, this is it. I survived 43 hours for nothing. But then the pounding on the door began. Police, open up. The sheer volume of the police presence spooked Joe. He didn't stab Thad. He ran. He ran out the back door. He ran into the woods. The police kicked in the front door. They found Thad Phillips lying on the floor. The officers were horrified. His legs were twisted at unnatural angles. He was dehydrated, pale, and covered in bruises. "He went that way," Thad gasped. "He went into the woods." Thad was rushed to the hospital. Doctors had to use metal rods and screws to rebuild his legs. They said the damage was consistent with torture usually seen in war zones. But Thad was alive. Meanwhile, a manhunt was underway for Joe Clark. They found him hours later, hiding in the woods. He was arrested without incident. But the story gets darker. When police searched Joe Clark's house, they found evidence that Thad wasn't the first. They didn't find other bodies in the house, but they found bone fragments. They linked Joe Clark to the disappearance of another boy, Chris Kleber, who had vanished months earlier. Joe Clark wasn't just a torturer, he was a killer. He had killed Chris. Thad Phillips was supposed to be the next one. He was supposed to be the next set of bone fragments. The trial of Joe Clark was a spectacle of horror. Thad Phillips, still in a wheelchair, with metal pins holding his legs together, rolled into the courtroom. He faced the monster. He testified about the snap. He testified about the apologies. He testified about the phone trick. Joe Clark's defense tried to claim insanity. They claimed he had a split personality. But the jury looked at the calculation. They looked at how he trapped Thad. They looked at how he ran from the police. That's not insanity, that's evil. Joe Clark was found guilty of attempted first-degree murder, kidnapping, and mayhem. He was sentenced to 100 years in prison. Thad Phillips didn't just survive the trial, he survived the recovery. Doctors told him he might never walk again. His legs were shattered. But Thad had already proven that he doesn't listen to impossible. He went through years of physical therapy. He endured painful surgeries to lengthen his bones. And eventually, he stood up. He walked. He ran. Thad grew up, he got married, he has a family. He still has the scars. He still has the metal in his legs. But he walks on his own 2 feet. Part 10. Why this perspective matters. The story of Thad Phillips is unique because of the age of the victim and the brutality of the method. Breaking bones is a specific kind of cruelty. It is designed to take away freedom. Joe Clark wanted to take away Thad's ability to move. But he forgot that movement isn't just about legs, it's about the mind. Thad moved the chess pieces in his head. Check, asking for the phone. Mate, leaving the line open. It reminds us that even children have an incredible capacity for survival. We underestimate them. Joe Clark underestimated Thad. He saw a doll. He didn't see the intellect. Thad Phillips is the boy who crawled through hell. He proved that you can break a femur, you can break an ankle, you can break a spirit, but you can't break the will to survive. He dragged himself to that phone not just to save his own life, but to stop a monster from hurting anyone else. This story makes my bones ache just thinking about it. The bravery of that 911 call is legendary. Do you think you could have kept your cool enough to trick a killer while in that much pain? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you are amazed by Thad's resilience, please crush that asterisk like asterisk asterisk button. And subscribe asterisk asterisk. I have a story coming next week about a woman who survived a killer by convincing him she had a heart attack. Stay safe, watch out for your neighbors, and never hang up the phone.